Woo, got the warning.
Hello there. There's that little person
Hey,
says
how are you?
classes. Hello, everybody. This is Sean and Joy with Sock Talks today, and glad you're here with us. And as you can tell, we prefaced before we even turned the record button on. We were chit chatting what we're going to do, and then it's kind of like we're not recording it.
Yeah.
So here
We
we
solved
are.
world problems and now we forgot what we were saying.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So, but yeah, and we're right up the alley here. We're talking about promptings. We're talking about how, when we're presenting to somebody, how do we say it? What do we do? How can we make it easier? Basically, I think that's what you were saying to begin with, Sean, is how you make it easier for people to
And,
define the
and
difference.
how do you get people to connect? Because as we were chatting before, and I believe the I believe the prompting is as you're going through the day, you think of somebody, that's a prompting. You think you should do something, that's a prompting. Your little voice, your guide, and we always joke, no drunk promptings, but your little voice, that should guide you. And 99% of the people out there don't act on them. They just, that's weird. I haven't thought of that person in a while. Squirrel. So it's getting them to connect the dots to say, when you think of that person, randomly that just popped in your head, when you think you should do, zig instead of zag, that's a prompting. That's somebody, pulling you or telling you should do something. It's your voice, but whether you act on it, that's your free will. But we know as we act on them, we hear more of them. We may get bigger promptings, and it
Hmm.
leads you to better
Hmm.
things.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
as we talk about all the time, it comes back to you tenfold. But yeah, and we totally get it. We understand what that prompting means. A lot of people don't understand it. They're not in tune with it, and they don't recognize it. So I'm always telling people when I'm talking about it is listen, pay attention, be aware. Yeah, prompting can come
To
out of the
to
clear.
this and your surroundings, right?
Yeah,
You're not just talking here, or
right.
you're talking here, but they should be listening here too,
Exactly, exactly. And it could be simple things. Sometimes when I talk to people, it's like, have you ever been somewhere and something reminded you of somebody else, or thought, okay, you just thought about somebody else. What are you going to do with that? It's time to act, and that's what we preach is to act on that prompting and to act, on it. But I think it's a hard society of people don't see it and they don't recognize it or they're not listening or everything's wrapped around them, and not about, yeah, it's all about me, man. Oh yeah, I saw the Susie yesterday, but you know what? I'm late getting where I need to go,
right? Slow them
kind of
down, take
thing.
a breath.
Yeah, slow down, take a
And
breath.
if we could get the business community to think that way, man, it would drastically change their business. And that's what I've been really trying to talk within my BNI is like, when you think of a customer or a client, and maybe you're not even doing any business with them right now, but you're like, wow, I haven't thought of Bob Johnson in a while. Let me reach out to him. And I say, look, text, phone call, preferably a card. But when you do that, that will lead, that we know that's going to lead to something.
Hmm. Yeah,
It does.
yeah, yeah.
But
So,
you're
Sean,
right.
when you're talking with a business owner and a business owner says, hey, barely have enough time to, say hello to my employees or say hello to my a customer. What do you say to them? How do you bring them?
Really, really,
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm really asking you. No, I mean,
really, yeah,
really.
yeah. When somebody's like, I'm too busy to do that. Well, and I don't even want to do my individual cards. I'm like, you know what? Then next.
Hmm.
And I'll ask questions. I'm not talking, and I joke about it. Like, this is gonna sound that out there, whatever. Oh, but I'm telling you, when you listen to that little voice inside your head, and maybe you go back to your business that you have. Was it an idea that you had? Was it passed down to? How did you get into this business? Well, I
Hmm.
thought one day that da. Okay, that was a prompting. So I think you have to connect the dots for them. When you had your biggest sale, tell me about your biggest sale. How did that come about? Well, I was talking to Bob and he led me to Dave and I called Dave, I mean, so you have to connect the dots for them, I think. And knowing, you got to know 100% that not everybody's going to buy into this and they're not going to get it.
Hmm.
That's not business. I think we're getting better. It's not the 50s, 60s where it's business and it's a dog eat dog world and damn, it's, I think it's creeping in that, kindness and empathy and gratitude work across the board,
Hmm.
whether that's personal or in business.
Hmm.
So I think people are more open to it, but I think you really have to connect the dots with them. If you have your story on how it impacted your business, if that's how you started with send out cards, or you have one of our, hey, let me tell you about, and you share a story that they just slow down and it took a minute to do
Hmm.
that. So I think that's what I try to when somebody said like I just don't have the time. All right, well let's talk about that. What are you doing to overcome that? We can automate some stuff, but I'm telling, and I always say, look, your drip cards are great, but your one-to-one cards, that's where the magic happens.
Hmm.
So how
Hmm.
about you?
Well, I'm taking notes. You see, I was taking notes when you were
Yeah, thank
talking
you.
because I thought those were some great tips. I guess when somebody says that to me, I kind of say to them, I say to them, I said, I guess I understand. I said, but I'm going to explain. Yeah, I'm going to explain something to you that I know to be true. And I'll go in and I'll give a story or I'll even talk about myself. I mean, cripe, I was one of those folks, all I did was use it for thank you cards to my hostesses for years, kind of a thing. But it wasn't until I randomly took a prompting to reach out to 3 or 4 people a day for a short period of time did it really click. And it wasn't right away. I mean, I was doing what I was doing. What was right away was the impact that was having on everybody. So, I mean, we all have a story out there. And maybe if we have to go back to our own, why did we start doing what we're doing? As long as you didn't start it because you thought you were it was going to be your big money maker, I mean, because somebody said to you, hey, you can make that, we know you, most of you guys aren't around if somebody told you that because we haven't been preaching any of that stuff for an awful long time. But there's not a lot of companies that do, kind of. It all
No,
starts with heart.
and it's lost my train of thought. Phew,
Oh,
wow.
squirrel.
Yeah. All right. See how
Quiet
it
squirrel.
happens.
Quiet squirrel. Quiet squirrel.
I was listening to you and shoop. Uh, okay. Well, have a great day.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. That's what you have to think about with your people you're talking to. That kind of stuff. You don't know when you're talking to somebody what is going on in their mind. What is going
No,
on?
there's.
Okay, when is this over? What do I have to
I
do
came
next?
back. And it's funny. It popped. I was showing a realtor the other day, Zoom, and another realtor looked in. Oh yeah, I looked at that. They don't know what they don't know about send out cards. When
Right.
you first show some, it's when you say card and gift company, act on your promptings. Whew. All right, I can send cards. Great. To the neighborhood, so they don't know what the impact, it's not just a card. It never is.
Hmm.
And I would say that it's never just a card. You know, it's you thought of somebody, you took the time to send them a card to even, hey, I thought of you today. Hope all's well. Let's grab coffee soon.
Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm.
You know, and probably on the other end, somewhere in their world, they either need somebody like you if you're in business, or they were thinking of you at that time.
Hmm.
I was going to call you. Yeah, we need to do. So it's never just a card, and you always have time. The time thing's a good excuse because they just don't know what they have to do and where they do it. But you get them thinking, and I think the greatest thing you could do. What if your best customer needed something from you and you weren't there when they needed it, but your competition was? How do you feel? How's that feel? Because we've all lost a client.
Hmm. Hmm.
Let's not that ever. That'll never happen again if you stay in front of your clients,
Hmm.
or 99% of the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's
So
so funny. I'm going to put a plug in here for you. A lot of us have been talking about the contact mapping. you
Mhm.
know, app that's available to us, which is really geared around network marketing folks, and I haven't been a real proponent of it for a long time, and I decided to kind of get back into it. And they have like these calls every day at noon. And in part of, calls, they're like a Zoom. You can jump on if you want, jump off when you want. But one of the pieces of it is they put together, um, they show you, they tell you like for 5 minutes, just go down your contact list, reach out. How many people can you reach out to? Just put a simple message out to them. How you doing? Kind of thing. And I played the game, I kind
Right.
of did it. And afterwards, 10 minutes later, come back on and, how many did you put? Oh, Joy, congratulations, you did 4, or somebody else did 6 or whatever, whatever. Well, you know what? I honestly, the other day when I did this last week, I had 5 people I reached out to. Just say, hey, how you doing? Do you know 4 out of those 5 have reached back to me? And out of those 4, 2 of them want to talk to me about what's going on or new or everything was sent off
Yeah.
right. And I just chuckle because
So this shit really works.
yeah,
Wow.
it's like holy cow, we're on our own worst enemies, or we just don't to take the time ourselves to see what we can do to impact.
Well, and you got to practice what you preach. However, whether
Yeah.
you group people and send out cards, whether you look at your back office occasionally, however you need to, stay in front of we have customers, we have prospects. We probably
Hmm.
have a lot more prospects than we do customers because we didn't follow up correctly or they weren't ready at that time. But if you keep dripping on them, they're going to come back to you.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
could be a deck. Yes, great card, great, great. But it could be a quick, text. Hey, I was thinking of you this weekend. Hope so, all well. Did you watch that? You watched the Super Bowl? And you could do 5 of those, and like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's
So you're
a
right.
yeah, it's so it just I just chuckled when I started hearing back from people.
It's really works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just a discipline. I had somebody
Yep.
said, "Hey, let's gonna do this. Let's take the time. Let's do it." And blah blah blah, and it happened. But anyways, well,
All right.
I hope we
So
helped you
act on
guys a
your
little bit.
promptings.
As you can say, as you can see, Sean and I we look at promptings one way, we look at it another way. I like to tell people you got to pay attention, you got to listen first, and then you got to act.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people in this world they don't know what it means to listen.
Huh?
Listen to what their voice is telling them. Yeah, it's not about just hearing what somebody's saying, it's listening to what
Right.
your voice is telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noticing things, and
Yeah.
you know. So and listen to your little voice inside your head. Whether some of you, I know that's scary. So, but me included.
Yeah.
But no,
Well,
that
I
we're
I know one of the things I do with my BNI chapter is every time somebody speaks, one of the speakers, I always send a card saying something about, I learned something from it, but I've learned to listen to the things that have nothing to do with their business. Things that they thought about. Like this one the other day said, well, what you don't know about me is I've only eaten 2 salads in my life. And I'm thinking, "Oh, where's that random thought coming from to begin with?" Before it was fun finding a card with a bunch of salads on it,
right.
kind of
You
thing.
need
And
your roughage.
yeah.
I get 4 or 5 card ideas every time we do our 30 seconds. Now I have 90 people, but I do. I'm listening to what they want, but something pops. Oh, that's a card.
I
you
know,
know.
I
Yeah.
know, I
So
know.
so
Yeah, yeah. And the more you do that, the more experienced you are telling other people,
absolutely.
when you're talking with them. So that's all good. Awesome. Okay.
Alrighty.
Well, thanks
Have a lovely
everybody.
weekend.
We'll see you next week. And pretty soon Sean's gonna be a grandpa. We'll have to celebrate that.
Yep.
It'll be a special edition.
Absolutely.
See you
Have a good
everybody.
weekend. Bye bye.